Hi guys, how are you? I am catering today. I'm actually doing it in the house because it's for my boys and some friends. So first things first, I want to wear this jacket even though it's warm because I want to protect myself from all the heat. That is why chef jackets come double-breasted like this. And just want to get ready. I'm going to do a very simple mise en place, just getting my veggies ready and putting them on trays, on baking trays. So most of the veggies will be roasted, and I'm going to prepare my table just to keep it off limits from myself. When it's like that, I just know even if a visitor just came in, it will be neat, it will be presentable, but we will not be using the table, we will not be eating from there, we'll be doing everything from outside, despite the pollen in summer that could really cause allergies. I got a thing of that yesterday. I would say I caught a bug, but I've been fighting it. Yeah, so chef look. Yeah, so first things first, I will lay out the table and then I'll show you how I'm doing my veggie mise en place and then my meat mise en place, and then I'll get things going. It's very early right now. I have over there at the stove, I have a broth going, and also I want to boil some pasta for mac and cheese. So I'll do a bit of modern Kenyan meals and a bit of American, yeah. So I'll show you what I'll do and I'll show you what is on the menu too. But let us make the table and all the places that we will use to set up, and then we'll get going. This is going to be interesting. Karibu. Hi, so guys, I'm doing the table now, and this is a thing I do to give me a sense of order. So I'll put a big tablecloth. It just fits this table perfectly. This is a big family table. You could make it smaller by removing some of the sections in the middle, but this is just perfect for us and it leaves a good space around it. So I don't mind when it's full like this. And then I used a runner, not quite a much, but it works very beautifully for most plain tablecloths. So then I'll put some table mats and I'll use some see-through or transparent plates and the side plate. And I'm not going to be putting my water and wine glasses because we'll be using disposables today because we plan to have the party outside, but we said just in case the sun doesn't come up, because it was quite gloomy at this point all morning until about 2 o'clock. So we had the house ready for the guests to occupy. They would have to, occupy like 2 sections of the house due to different ages, and also the fact that our living room is not too big. So I had two types of napkins and decided to go with this golden one because it was quite popping, and I had a different runner for my credenza or the side table over there. If we ate in the house, I might have had to use that space to display the food, but until I know if the sun is coming up, I'll just leave all the kitchen equipment we use over there, the toaster, the coffee makers, and this will help because some guests may be wanting coffee or a quick tea, and that is a good place to make it from. Yeah, so I can serve the food there or on the counter, but first we needed to see if the sun came out because that was the original plan. So it looks really nice. I have the cutlery out. I have the centerpieces. It's just perfect. So now we'll start with salting our mac and cheese, our pasta water. This the pasta we are using is elbow, and that is for mac and cheese. And then I have beef broth that we will use as a beef soup. And I had boiled my meat for pilau. That is a very Kenyan food. That is a food we make for parties. It is spiced rice, and I have the recipe on this channel. I cook it a lot with my meal preps. My sons love it. So I'm going to boil this like 2.5 boxes of the mac and cheese. I wanted it to be just enough. So I will use the big tray, aluminum tray, for baking it. Yeah, so this is the entry. If some guys want, they will sit there, but I wanted it to be neat also. I also wanted to have breakfast outside here for the guests who arrive first. If anyone comes early before, we finish cooking, I want to have some breakfast there for them. Yeah, so individual frittata, spinach frittata, and a sausage frittata. And I had some cookies out there. Another thing I'm going to lay out here is some fruit on some chopping boards. That way my guests can grab some appetizers before they sit down to eat. I'm hoping that the food will cook at the same time, or will be ready at the same time, so that my guests will be able to eat together, and those who come early will get some bitings. So I have my broccoli ready, and here I'm peeling the carrot. I'm going to boil this just so that they get a bit soft, and then I'll season them, and then add them on a baking sheet, and then we'll bake. So some of the vegetables I cook today will be steamed before baking, which is not something I do always. I'm just very sensitive to my visitors, because I'll have some kids and some older folk like me. So yeah, we might need our vegetables a bit soft. So this is the Brussels sprouts boiling for a bit. I'll boil for about 5 minutes so that they get well seasoned, and then I'll mix with butter, some onions, and bake that. Yeah, so the potatoes also will be boiled, and I'm cutting big chunks, and then I will roast these potatoes. I will add some spice, but you must boil this in salt. So I'll add some spice and sprinkle some powdered garlic and ginger. So I'm adding dry onions on this. This adds so much flavor. And with butter, I'll let it sit for a bit and transfer to my baking trays. Perfect. And moving along swiftly, I'm mixing my spices as well as salt and some Italian herbs, or the mixed herbs. These are for seasoning most of my meals, and especially the meat. And the first meat I prep will be this chicken thighs. I'm removing the bone so I have a little more space for stuffing my peppers. I'll be frying my peppers with some onions, you'll see up ahead, and removing these bones allows me to have a flatter piece of meat to work on. I'm leaving the skin on because I'll need it to be nice and crispy. The fat on the skin adds to the flavor. So I'll just debone them like this and set them aside, and then I will season them with these spices. And then after I've fried my peppers with onion and a bit of oil and herbs, I'll use it to stuff in these thighs. Then we'll roll them up and roast. Do you notice the change of the chopping boards? When cutting up vegetables, you want to use a green chopping board. That indicates that you're working only vegetables on it. And when you're cutting up poultry, you want to use a white one. For fish, you would need a blue one. And for red meat, a red chopping board, but you can use whatever you have as long as you don't mix it. So I'm starting to fry my peppers with a bit of oil, and I added my garlic cube that I usually grind in the food processor. Just garlic and coriander adds so much flavor to the meal. I will not let my peppers overcook. I just want them to cook enough because they'll continue cooking with the chicken. So just to have them a bit tender, and then we move to the counter and start stuffing.
Do you want to know? Well, I've been thinking about you, and I think I have to listen, because...
Alright, and this is the stuffing process. I'm just adding the colored peppers in my chicken and rolling it up just like this. I use gloves for mixing the spices in the chicken and also doing this, but like I always say, you have to be very cautious when you're using the gloves, because it gives you a false sense of security or cleanliness, because anything that you touch doesn't get onto your hands and you'll assume your hands are clean, but they're really not. So you have to be careful, or just use your hands when prepping, because as soon as they get dirty, you'll feel it and you'll want to wash your hands. Yeah. So in the kitchen, we mostly don't use gloves, but for raw product, it's important, as long as you remember to remove after each process and wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water. My potatoes are boiled and tender now. I just drizzled some oil on the pan and I'll add some seasoning, and I'm keeping all the prepared food in the oven just because there's space there. To cook this, I will need to remove all, preheat the oven, and then set them back. But I'm putting there just to have them waiting while I meal prep. And points to note is that if I was working in a commercial kitchen, I would put all these trays in the big walk-in freezers or refrigerators. That way they maintain a very good temperature. So my broccoli, I'll be roasting with just red onions, seasoning, and some oil. And these are my chicken wings. I'm using the same seasoning. This is powerful enough. And because we'll serve the chicken wings with some sauces, they'll taste different. And then I'll use the same seasoning and the same bowl for this chicken. But for a different cut of meat, you have to change your bowl. And I'll be doing a pork upper head, so I'll use a different bowl and different seasoning. So here I'm starting to cook on the stove top, and I'm starting with my bechamel or my white sauce. And because it was a lot of mac and cheese, I used 2 sticks of butter, 1 cup of flour, and we'll use about 8 cups of milk because we want it to be almost liquid. And then I have my grated cheese. This is just cheddar cheese, sharp cheddar, and some marble cheese that I will add into this sauce so that it melts before I add into my mac and cheese. Some of the grated cheese will also remain for me to add on top, and that really helps when you're browning your mac and cheese. The mac and cheese doesn't necessarily have to be boiled after going through this process, but you do want to bake so that it gives you a very crunchy texture on the top, and it's just better when you bake because it gets, or all the liquid gets mixed in with the pasta, and it's just more flavorful, I find. So melt the cheese in the bechamel, and then this is how big a tray I was gonna use because I wanted a lot of mac and cheese for the kids to enjoy and also take away. Okay, so you add the sauce just like this, and then sprinkle some of the grated cheese on top, and it's best when it's yellow cheese, just like cheddar or the marbled. You can mix in some mozzarella so that you get a satisfying pull when serving, but mostly I added just the cheddar and the marbled. What I left was not enough, so I added some more. And by now I have a helper there peeling my carrots for me. The guys are just beginning to get up, and they're the ones who are gonna set up everything outside while I cook. So very good division of labor, and they usually help to clean up after. So it really works, because after all this cooking, just like a chef, you don't want to do the cleaning yourself because it's a lot. Okay, so I'm cutting my onions. Today, of course, because we are serving Kenyan meals, we want to have a kachumbari. It's very important. And you want to clean your onions with salt when making kachumbari. This helps to get rid of that sting from the onion, or just the heat from the onion. It's just very unsavory if you eat it like that. So you have to rub in the salt and then rinse your onions, and then come back here and cut the tomatoes, very small pieces like this. Just try and make them even, and then you can layer this just like this, but it's best when it's mixed. That is how we make our kachumbari. And you can we add coriander usually. It's just like the Mexican salsa, but I added cucumbers just to make it more of a salad. And I cut my tomatoes lengthwise just for garnishing. Just want to make it pretty because I'm serving in a truffle dish. So you want it to look pretty from the outside. So this is this is one side dish that is really loved. You know, it's like a salad. You can serve this with meat, especially grilled meat. It works very well. And here now I'm layering my green salad with some garden salad and adding cherry tomatoes. For salad lovers, I'll also have some meat toppings, some grilled chicken, the chicken breast, and some bacon in case somebody wants to eat just the salads. And now I'm starting my stovetop dishes. So I'm going to do a big pot of beef stew and pilau, as well as white rice and some meatballs that we will serve with the chapatis. They just go along famously. And with the beef stew, I'm starting with frying my onions and adding the beef. I'm going to add my seasoning, salt, herbs, and I'm going to leave it to cook just like that. So when you do that, it produces a lot of stock. I'll take out the stock and just now start frying the meat. In the meantime, I'm using these dry onions to cook my meatballs. Because they're already cooked in the oven, I will just add the garlic. I'm just building flavor for them, and I'm going to do it in a very simple way. So you must understand that cooking doesn't always involve stirring, especially for a meat like this. If you stir too much, you're most likely will break the balls. We don't want to do that. So I just want to build flavors for this. And one of the most flavorful things in this is the garlic and also the dry onions. So I added tomatoes and just let it cook. Added my spices and my herbs and just letting it cook and checking that it doesn't stick. And over here, I'm adding some garlic cubes to my beef stew so that it gets softer. By the time I come to turn it, the garlic will be ready. So beef goes very well with garlic. You want lots of it, yeah. And here I've added the beef stock in the meatballs. And one more thing I'm going to add is that Royco solution. I just mixed the Royco powder in some water, and I'm going to let it simmer, and then we'll finish off with some parsley. That will be delicious. When I tasted, I found it to be very acidic. So if you're cooking for people who don't like sugar, you might have to leave it like that. But if people are very tolerant with sugar, you can add some sugar just to take out the tomato acidity, because this is one dish that you want to cook with a lot of tomatoes. But this with chapati, amazing. I'm just very critical of self. Okay, so I've taken out the stock in this beef. It's soft and ready to cook. That is one thing I love about the beef here. It gets very soft when you cook it. So I will add oil here, and then these frozen peas, they will cook for a while, and then I'll add the tomatoes and beef stock. I also added some fresh garlic at this point and some dry herbs, but I'll still add some more towards the end of the cooking. I just want it to be really flavorful. So I'm also going to add I added 1 can of canned tomatoes, yeah. And this I started cooking. I'm just checking on how they're doing. So I'm cooking all at once, so that should my guests arrive on time, everything will be nice and hot. So I added some beef stew here as well, the beef stock, and that is about enough liquid. I also added the Royco mixture, adding some peppers. You have to adjust your seasoning as you go. Make sure you have enough salt and black pepper. So this goes very well, and especially because of the garlic, very important in beef and also very healthy, right? Garlic is one of those aromatics that you want to add into your meats. Okay, so we let that boil and then add the zucchini I was cutting up and the carrots. I had cut my carrots in the food processor. That's why they look so thin. But this works, yeah, because we'll have other carrots as a side dish. So now we flip off potatoes. They've been baking nicely. And also the carrots almost got burnt. So these are ready. Yeah, so we leave the chicken cooking, and I'm going to bring it to the bottom shelf as well as the Brussels. And we'll add in our mac and cheese. That way we'll be able to cook a lot of things together. Hey now, so I'm browning the onions for the pilau, and I added some garlic. You want your onion to brown before you add the meat, and you will let your meat cook together with the garlic, get very flavorful before we add the spices. And so I will be adding some pilau masala, as well as, you already know, cumin, very important in this dish. I might not show you the whole process of this pilau because we've done it a lot of times in this channel. And so we cook this for some time. We want the meat to brown with the spices as well. And then I add a bit of tomatoes. Sometimes I add coriander and green sweet pepper. So after this, I'll add the rice and then the stock. And in the meantime, I'm also cutting up some fruit and just getting it ready, as well as working on the cake, just smoothing it. This will be a very simple design on the cake. And guess what, guys? By the time we started serving the food, I didn't get the photos, but a lot of guests were even helping to take the food out and lay it outside, because at the last minute the sun came out, and we actually served from outside, had the party outside, yeah. So a lot of the meals had to go downstairs, and I was cooking up to the last minute, just adding some foods to the menu. By the way, I had the chapatis made by someone else, and they were so delicious. We buy our chapatis from her sometimes because chapatis take a long time to cook. So that was the cake. Yeah, it was an 8-layer. I added just some strawberries, some Oreos, and macarons. This is how it looks inside. My sons were sharing this because the occasion, both of them graduated, and it was also a birthday for one of them. Albeit a little late, but this is how it was looking. It was also very delicious. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.